Hello everyone, and welcome to tonight's Greenline Town Hall, reporting back ahead of Greenline Committee. My name is Dylan Jones. I'll be the session moderator for tonight. We'll get started at 7 o'clock. I just wanted to welcome you and let you know that we're here and ask you just to hang tight for a few more minutes, and we'll get started right at 7. Hey, there we go. Get that out of the way right off the bat. I had my mic muted. Welcome everybody. My name is Dylan Jones and I'll be the session moderator for tonight. We want to welcome you to the Greenline Town Hall, reporting back ahead of Greenline Committee. First off, I want to take this moment to acknowledge that we're gathered on traditional territories of the people of Treaty 7 region in southern Alberta. This includes the Blackfoot Confederacy, made up of the Siksika, Piikani, and Kainai First Nations, the Stoney Nakoda First Nations, comprised of the Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Wesley First Nations, and the Tsuut'ina First Nation, which I can see right from my window beside me. The city of Calgary is also homeland to the historic Northwest Métis and Métis Nation of Alberta Region 3, which I happen to be a proud member of. We also want to acknowledge all Indigenous urban Calgarians who have made Calgary their home, and remind everyone that we are all treaty people. Really pleased to have you here with us tonight. We had one session yesterday. We had 168 guests join us. and really excited to do it again tonight. I'm going to give you a little run through and then we're going to get started. The format for tonight will be begin with a presentation and we'll follow with a moderated question and answer. For those of you who are not accustomed to using Teams, you won't be able to share your microphone or your screen tonight, but you will be able to ask questions. It may be showing already. If not, you'll see a kind of a comment box with a question mark in it, and that's for the moderated Q&A, which we'll explain to you in just a moment. I'm going to take a quick technology moment with you too. This is new for a lot of us, hosting town halls like this. The last time we met, we may have been in Crescent Heights Community Association with over 300 guests inside the building. And now we're doing things online to stay home and stay safe. With doing events in this way, there's always potential for some kind of technology glitch. We have tested things, we've ran them through. We had an event yesterday that went quite well overall with only the odd glitch here or there. But there is potential for those moments. You might hear a baby cry or a child or a dog bark, and that's part of the reality of working from home. So we ask you to please work with us and ask for your understanding as we try our best in tonight's event. Our presentation tonight is going to give you an update on the Stage 1 alignment. You'll be able to hear from subject matter experts who will also be available to answer your questions and hear about some of the recommended changes in segment 2, which is that downtown area from 16th Ave in the north to Elbow River further south. Speaking of, let's see here, I'm just going to bring something up for you. Bear with me one moment, please. Actually, Quinn, why don't I bring it to you right now, and I'll introduce you, and you can give people a little run through on how the moderated Q&A is going to work.
Great. Hi, everyone. My name is Quinn Eastlick. Like Dylan said, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of an overview of how the question and answer portion of today's session is going to go. But first, I just wanted to echo Dylan's comments. Thank you for being here. Thanking you, I guess, in advance for a little bit of patience as we work through this. This is only the second one of these large-scale online events that we've been doing since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic response. So, like I said, we appreciate you being here and going through this with us. In terms of how we'd like to manage this over the course of the evening, we just ask that you submit your questions as they come up to you during the presentations. That allows us to feed those over to our subject matter experts so they can start preparing their answers in advance. What we'll do is go through all of the presentations first, then have a Q&A discussion at the end. We'll be answering the questions in the order they are received, but we will be combining similar questions to allow us to get through as much as possible before the end of our session tonight. In terms of etiquette, there's a few things that we do have to ask. One, if you could please punctuate any questions that you have with a question mark, just helps us identify those within the comment stream. Also, if you could try to limit one question per posted comment, that would also help us just parse those out. Similarly, if you, after submitting a question, want to provide clarification to that, please submit that as a second comment. If you try to reply to a post that you've already put in the comment stream, it'll only come up as private, so the rest of the group won't be able to see it. In terms of just a few other housekeeping things, please refrain from using vulgar language or any derogatory comments in your comments or in any of the questions that you submit. Also, please do not have any attacks on city staff or other participants who are here this evening. Any of those will not be posted to the live Q&A. Like I mentioned, we'll try to get through as much as we can before the end of the evening, just given that we have a limited amount of time, and we appreciate you being here. Thanks so much for your time. Dylan, back to you.
All right, thank you, Quinn. Right before I introduce Graham Jarillo, who is the Senior Manager of Planning for the Green Line LRT, I just wanted to touch base and acknowledge on the rich history of engagement with the Green Line project. I myself been working on the project 4 or 5 years. I've met so many of you, probably many of you who are on this call right now and were there yesterday, and really want to acknowledge and thank you for everything you've contributed to the project over the course through all phases of the project. I just show on this slide here a little bit, just to give you a reminder of what we did in the first quarter of this year. We had engagement open towards the end of January, and it ended, I think it was the beginning of April, or sorry, ended the beginning of March on in person and the end of March online. We had a large number of contributions from our website, our open houses, pop-up events, and our storefront in Crescent Heights. And through that, we uncovered a lot of key interests and how people are feeling about the Green Line. And we received over 5,000 comments. Those comments will be summarized in a What We Heard report, which will be shared shortly here. And I really want to acknowledge all the time that you've put into this project. The project team takes interest in your comments. We read them. They're considered as part of the project. And so really want to pay homage to that and really thank you for all you've given. With that, I want to introduce Graham Jarillo to kick off with the first part of the presentation. He's our Senior Manager of Planning, and he will be going live now. Graham, your mic can be unmuted now.
Excellent. Dylan, can you hear me okay?
You're good, Graham. We can hear you.
Excellent. And can you see my screen okay as well?
Right now, I see you, so you can everyone can put a face to the name, and I'll send your screen over right now.
Great, thank you. Good evening, everyone. This is maybe an encore presentation for some of you that joined us yesterday. If you're back, welcome. If you're new to today's presentation, I'm happy to have you here today. Today, we're going to do a presentation on the updated Stage 1 Green Line alignment. And we have a pretty packed agenda today that we're going to go over. And so I'm going to try to go through things pretty quickly, but I want to make sure I will pause on some items to make sure we spend a bit of time to make sure everyone understands some of the content. So today we're going to go over a brief overview of the Green Line vision and how we're delivering Green Line Stage 1, why we're making updates to the alignment, and we'll jump right into what those recommendations are for the changes in the downtown alignment. And I'll touch on some of the information that we shared with many of you in March at our public open houses. And at that time, we also mentioned that we were still exploring some items. And so today we're going to talk about some of those items that we said we were exploring. I'll end the presentation with a brief summary of next steps, and then I'll hand it back to Dylan for some members of the team to then come up to the microphone, and they're going to share some quick presentations as well. So I'll jump right into it, and if any of you have seen our Green Line presentations, we always like to start by starting at the vision and making sure that we're all starting on the same page and understanding the importance of Green Line and what the long-term vision is. And that is to be a city-shaping transit service that works to improve mobility choices for Calgarians. This is both delivering high-quality transit service in North Central and Southeast Calgary, but also improving mobility choices for Calgarians across the city, as Green Line itself might take pressures off of Deerfoot Trail or off, some of the high ridership on the Red Line and move people to a different way to move around the city. Green Line's important to connect people and places. And that's whether it's connecting you to where you work, where you play, where you live, or visiting friends and family across the city. And finally, Green Line's important to enhance the quality of life in our city, and that's both ensuring that Calgarians of all income levels and all have opportunities to get around the city in an easy fashion, and to connect to the various transit opportunities in the city. So the vision for Green Line is actually a 46-kilometer vision. The alignment would connect to 160th Avenue in the north, going down the North Central corridor along Centre Street North, making its way through the downtown, and then it moves to the southeast in Calgary, where eventually Green Line will terminate in the community of Seaton. Green Line itself will deliver 29 stations across that alignment, and once fully built out, we project it will carry over 200,000 Calgarians a day across the system. So Green Line itself, is important because it's going to serve the mobility needs of our city. And one way of how I'll do that, I like to talk about this graphic here, which is our ever-growing rapid transit network. 3 or 4 years ago, our rapid transit network was really a blue line and a red line, which is the two different LRT systems. And over the last couple of years, we've been building our MAX BRT networks, the teal, the orange, the purple, and other systems to be able to connect Calgarians, not just into our downtown, but across the city. And Green Line will connect into the MAX BRT and connect into the red lines and blue lines at strategic connection points down in the Douglas Glen area up to 16th Avenue in the north. And this is an important system to move Calgarians around. And why are we doing this? Why is the alignment where it is? It's to serve both the southeast and the north central communities. And those communities have different transportation needs. And that's demonstrated in the map that we're showing here. In Calgary southeast, you can see that many of the communities have a yellow color. The yellow color means that less than 10% of the residents in those areas take transit to work each day. And one of the reasons for that is the system really is not that efficient. The system today, with the graphic on the right, you can see these circular routes that buses take people through their communities. If you wanted to hop on the red line, it will be a long trip around your community to get to the red line LRT. So it's not really a convenient system that's really attracting Calgarians. So we feel that Green Line will unlock opportunities, and there's a captive audience of Calgarians waiting for an improved rapid transit system. In Calgary's north central communities, you can see different shades of greens and almost up to blues on the graphic here. That's saying we're representing, from 15 to 30% of Calgarians in these neighborhoods currently take rapid transit to work each day. So the north central is actually really well served. In fact, it's so well served that it's time to start getting ready to progress the mode of transportation that people use when using transit. And it will soon be time to move from the BRT system, which is so well used with buses during the peak hour. On Center Street, there's a bus almost a minute during the peak hours full of Calgarians. And soon it'll be time to transition them to a rapid transit LRT system that will carry more people and have greater capacity to move Calgarians. So we've been asked this a lot lately, and why are we even talking about Green Line today in lieu of the COVID situation that Calgary and the world's facing, but also, understanding the economics, downturn that Calgary is facing. And at the city here, we feel that Green Line will be an important part of Calgary's economic recovery. The Green Line project itself, we anticipate will create approximately 20,000 jobs over the life of the project. In fact, those jobs have already started. We have enabling works construction underway in the southeast portion of the city that's been keeping Calgarians working for the last couple of years, with more projects coming up this summer to keep Calgarians employed. And it's not just the enabling works. Once our main contract project gets underway, there'll be over 20 kilometers of construction going on in the city, from the community of Shepherd or 126th Avenue up to 16th Avenue in the north. And if you think about it, along this 20-kilometer stretch in the city, there'll be construction workers that every day will likely be buying coffee or lunch or picking up groceries on their way home from work and spending money in each of the communities along the Green Line area. And then, of course, as people spend money, that starts to have other economic spin-offs to create more employment along the area. So we feel that Green Line will be an important part of our economic recovery. Also, moving forward with the Green Line today readies Calgary for tomorrow's recovery. Calgary's health and economy will improve. I think we all know that. It's hard to imagine today in this situation, but history has shown through situations like this, health will improve, economies will improve. So moving ahead with the project today will pay off and make sure that Calgary is ready for the time when we recover. And when we talk about this, I like to call it this line graph that shows the transit ridership trends in Calgary since 1975 up until 2018. And what you'll see in here is we started building LRT in the late or early 80s. And that was actually during a period of economic uncertainty in the city. And at that time, Calgary was facing uncertainty when it comes to the oil economy. And we chose as a city to make investments at that time. We invested in our first LRT line. We invested in our arena. We invested in other infrastructure projects, and this paid off. By the time our economy rebounded and recovered in the early 1990s, there was infrastructure in place to support our growing and prosperous city. So we feel that moving forward with Green Line today will ready Calgary for tomorrow's recovery. Green Line is also a long-term investment. It's a long-term investment in the growth and the development of our city. We're building Green Line to serve the transportation needs of our growing city. We've been growing historically since 1980. We've doubled in size. And this map that I'm showing on the screen here shows where the density of population was more centralized in 1981 to how far it's spread out here in 2015. So as a growing city, we have a vision to support that growth. We realize that growth might slow down during this current economic time and in the COVID situation, but we expect that growth will continue over the long term in Calgary. So as we grow, Green Line will become, as we grow, Green Line will be one of, Calgary's competitive advantages. This will help attract new business. It will help attract new residents. It will help attract the young and talented workforce that we want to come to our city as our economies evolve over time and through our recovery piece. So I want to shift now into how we're delivering Green Line. So I think it's important to emphasize that the city is committed to delivering stage 1 of Green Line within the approved capital budget we have of $4.9 billion. And I'll talk about that in a little bit in the presentation. That's one reason why we're here, is to make sure that we work hard to achieve this commitment. So when we talk about delivering stage 1 of Green Line, stage 1 is the first 20 kilometers of the alignment. And we're identifying that here in the map. That alignment goes from 16th Avenue in the north to Shepherd in the south. And we chose this as our first stage of Green Line for a few reasons. First, this section of the alignment will create or will support the greatest ridership projections out of all different permutations we looked at of alignment options. The land is ready, the project is ready in many areas. In the southeast quadrant of Calgary, we're ready for construction. In fact, we're planning to release our construction tender in July of this year. Also, what was important is that we met some key prerequisites for this alignment. We needed to have a space to have a maintenance and storage facility to store all the light rail vehicles that the project needs. We wanted to have those strategic network connections into the downtown, but also with those cross-city BRT connections that I was showing you earlier, like the Teal line in the southeast and the Orange line up in 16th Avenue. And it was also important with this first stage that we can easily expand to the north and the south after we're completed the first round of construction. Because like the red line and like the blue lines, Green Line will be built in stages where we start with the core of the system and expand it as funding becomes available. And planning is already underway, and we'll continue the planning this year to have plans ready to start expanding the system. So the first 20 kilometers of track in the stage 1 will provide us with 15 stations. And we project an opening day will have up to 65,000 trips on our system. An opening day would be sometime in 2027. So we're still talking a few years from today. And of course, in a time when we anticipate that Calgary's economy and health will have rebounded and the system will be ready to support those riders. So why have we been updating Green Line? So we've been updating Green Line so we can build a system within our budget that manages construction risk and delivers the best value to Calgarians. As some of you might know, in July of last year, we presented to City Council an update on the project. And at that time, we addressed them on 3 issues with the project. The first issue we're facing is our project budget. The cost estimates for our engineering design was exceeding our project budget by around 10%. So on a project of this magnitude, we exceeded our project budget by around $500 million. So it was important that we look at the project in a different lens to ensure that we can bring our cost estimates within our budget range. We also found that we were facing more construction risk than the city was willing to accept. The way we're looking to build our tunnel through the downtown area, our tunnel was getting deep. It was getting deep to avoid some obstructions in the roadway. That meant our tunnel needed to get deeper down to a 7 or 8 story depth. That was increasing our project costs because it costs more to build deeper, both for materials, but also to manage some of the construction risk. But also that depth we felt would be impacting the ultimate customer experience of Greenline. And the vision for Greenline we felt was not to have such deep stations in the downtown, is really to create an easy to access system. So we told City Council that we wanted to work to address our budget, reduce or manage our construction risk, and improve the overall customer experience. And the recommendations that we'll share with you today check all 3 of these boxes. So what is the alignment and the updates? So what I'm showing on a map here is what is all going into our recommendations to City Council. First, in green, I'm showing what we call segment 1 and segment 2. So those are how we're breaking up the LRT stage 1 into 2 different components. Segment 1 goes from the Elbow River south to Shepherd. That is around a 16-kilometer alignment. We've not made any changes to that alignment, and that's the section that we're ready to begin construction as early as 2021, and we'll be going out to tender for construction bids starting this summer. Segment 2, from the Elbow River north to 16th Avenue North, we've revised the alignment and actually added a station in that area as well, and I'll walk you over those details in a minute. But joined up with our recommendations, we're also suggesting that we make some improvements to the North Central BRT, understanding how heavily used that system is, how important that is to residents of North Central Calgary. We're going to invest some money at the same time to provide some improvements along that corridor that will provide improved amenities and also improve travel time for Calgarians on the bus system. So I'm going to focus in on the segment 2 alignment and stations here. And some of you have seen this graphic previous, and this is a summary of what the new alignment is. So in the north area on Center Street, you see a solid green line. That green line is where we have sections of act rate or surface running alignment. We're recommending a station at 16th Avenue and at 9th Avenue in the north. We are recommending a bridge over the Bow River. And then in the downtown, from 2 Avenue Southwest all the way to the Victoria Park Transit Facility in the Beltline, we're recommending an underground system which will have 4 underground stations. And I'll walk you through those shortly. So the change from 2017 is highlighted here. And so the major changes really are we've moved from an underground alignment on Center Street and under the Bow River to a surface or bridge. And in the Beltline, we've centralized the alignment so it's all underground on 11th Avenue versus before it straddled 12th Avenue and 10th Avenue. And I've touched on some of these BRT improvements, so I'm going to skip over them here now, but I'll touch on them near the end of the presentation. So I would like to walk you through the segment 2 through 4 different focus areas to talk about some of the changes. And like I mentioned at the start of the presentation, I'll focus on some of the things that we shared with you earlier this winter in March, but also some of the things that we've been working on, and we've made some revisions to our recommendations since we last saw many of you. So on Center Street North, what we shared with you in March is that we're recommending a surface running LRT. We shared with you renderings of what we felt the 16th Avenue station might look like and what the public realm might look like. We shared with you at the time that our intent is to improve Center Street from building face to building face with new curbs, pedestrian-oriented street lighting, benches, bikes, and other street furniture. And we shared renders like this here of the 16th Avenue station, which would be a terminus from the end of the line for stage 1, but it will be definitely the launching point for future stages of Green Line. The station's been designed so it's in the middle of the road, so the platform trains can stop and leave from both sides. So that way, one train may be coming into the platform that's coming from downtown, while another one on the other side's leaving to go back south to the downtown and southeast Calgary. We also were showing some of the opportunities for public realm improvements and streetscapes, and we're showing different images and different designs, because our intent right now is not to design the street on our own, but to show possibilities. And once we once council has approved the alignment, we'll then start working with the communities to start defining more of the character of the street that people are looking for in Crescent Heights. So what we were still exploring, we were exploring adding potentially a 9th Avenue station. We're exploring if the C train should be running in the middle of Center Street or on the curbside. We were exploring how left turns may work in the area, and also looking at different ways to improve BRT priority in the corridor. So first, and you've maybe seen this online, we evaluated the potential addition of a 9th Avenue station and feel that that's the right recommendation with the surface running alignment. The 9th Avenue station, we're designing to be more community scaled. So the station will not be as big or as wide as some of the other stations might be from a platform width perspective. And that allows us to place the station within the community without impacting any of the adjacent developments, and allowing all the businesses to stay operating and stay in place with this station through the construction or after the station has been built. We're recommending that the LRT run down the middle of the road instead of a curbside, as we were exploring. And we feel that this recommendation strikes a balance. And it strikes a balance between the community's desire for some robust and comfortable pedestrian realm improvements, such as sidewalks and opportunities for planting trees. It allows for safe movement of pedestrians, vehicles, and LRT along the corridor. It provides good access and circulation to businesses in the community. And by that I mean it's good access opportunities for left turns and ease of that left turn opportunities to get into the community. And it also allows us to have efficient LRT operations, and that the train would be running up to the speed of traffic on the roadway. And that way it allows for a more efficient system overall. We're looking over the last couple of months how left turns on Center Street would operate with an LRT. With the middle running opportunity, or the middle running LRT, there'll be 4 opportunities for left turn bays, and we've indicated them on the drawing here at 7th Avenue, 9th Avenue, 10th Avenue, and 12th Avenue. Right turns will be permitted at all of those different avenues. So this is where we talk about providing good opportunities into access to the businesses in the community in the area. Finally, as part of the recommendation for Center Street, we're looking at prioritizing BRT movement along the corridor, understanding that there's some high congestion points for the existing BRT system in this area of the network. So we're recommending that the BRT would operate within the LRT guideway in the middle of the road. The guideway will be similar to ours downtown on 7th Avenue, where the tracks will be embedded in concrete. So that will allow express buses to operate in the guideway and have an express route through Center Street. And then as we reach the Center Street Bridge, we're recommending that the 2 middle lanes on Center Street Bridge also be reserved for BRT and express buses to allow for that express movement all the way from just south of 16th Avenue into Chinatown. And we'll work to build a transition into Chinatown through the next stages of planning. Finally, what we've some citizens, some of you asked us at our last engagement is, can we show what things might look like in winter, so we can understand, what a street might look like, and to show how an LRT would operate in the winter. Certainly, LRTs have no challenges in winter operations, as we've seen in our winter city, where our LRT is operating on street in the downtown and has no issues in the snow. We were also asked to produce renders, in this case one from a motorist perspective, going northbound at 7th Avenue intersection, and to get a sense of what the roadway might feel like, what a crosswalk intersection might look like. So moving from Center Street, because I know this is where Dylan gets nervous that he thinks I'm spending too much time talking, so I'll move a bit faster, Dylan. As we move now from Center Street to the Bow River, what we shared with you in March is that we're recommending a bridge over the river. And we were sharing at that time different bridge types that we were exploring. And the idea of the different bridge types was not to lead into a design, but to articulate what different forms might look like that would support LRT. and to understand what they might look like from different viewpoints. And so what we're showing in this graphic here are 4 different bridge types that really vary in complexity, from the top left with a constant depth viaduct style bridge to the lower right, which is the more complex architecturally with a cable stay bridge. And some of these bridges stay low below the horizon level, really don't blend in, you know, or stand out within the skyline behind them. Others do. And we were receiving feedback from Calgarians and understanding what Calgarians' perceptions were generally with these different bridge types. And certainly we heard a lot about the importance of a lower profile bridge, something that doesn't stand out too much, but also interest to have something that has still really great urban design features. So that was interesting feedback that we took during the engagement. And as we advance the next stages of bridge planning, after council makes the decision on this recommendation, we will spend more time with Calgarians to ask more questions around, you know, architectural design objectives. So what we shared back in March is that we're still exploring the alignment of the bridge, and that's really down to what the shape of the curves would look like. And so I'll move right to that here, that we've been playing around with different curves of this S-shaped bridge going from Center Street to 2 Avenue. And we're playing with different curves because a lot of it depends on where our station ultimately ends up being, 2 Avenue. It also might vary depending on where we decide to put our feet down or the piers in the park. And so we wanted to share this to set the expectation that there still will be some variations with exactly where the bridge lands, and we'll be advancing that planning in the next stages of the project. What we've also been able to confirm is that the grades of the bridge will support a multi-use pathway for pedestrians and cyclists, and creating and unlocking a new connection between Crescent Heights and into the Eau Claire and Chinatown area. And I feel also myself personally, I think this bridge will unlock great vistas for Calgarians and visitors to our city to have some great views over the Bow River Valley, views of different festivals and events happening within Princess Island Park. We were also asked by Calgarians if we could create some additional renderings to understand what the bridge might feel like once you're inside the park. And so we've shared a rendering here of where the bridge would touch down in the wetland area, around the wetlands and around the boardwalk. And we're even showing ideas that our bridge architect is sharing with us of different ways to maybe integrate the bridge more into the natural or more into the surrounding environment. And so here's an inverted V column that actually could span over a boardwalk and be clad with wood. Again, this is not a design, but just a design idea to help understand realms of possibilities as we advance the planning for the bridge. A final view of the bridge that we've created is from the center of the park, if you're coming crossing into Princess Island from Jaipur Bridge. And you can see how much of the bridge here right now is obscured or hidden behind trees. And I'm sure if we were out there tonight and saw the trees in full bloom, that you'll see that, you know, from many vantage points in the park, the bridge will be hidden. And so I think it was important for us to help build some renderings to help everyone understand that. As I move to the downtown, what we shared with you in March was that we were planning or exploring a surface station in the Eau Claire area, 2 Avenue, and a portal that goes from underground to surface just north of 3rd Avenue. And we received a lot of feedback from Calgarians around this design and concerns of what the portal might do in the downtown area, and concerns around a surface station in the proximity to some of the developments in this area. And at the same time, we were also able to be working with a potential partner in the downtown to explore other opportunities for the 2 Avenue station. So I want to touch on a couple of things that we were still exploring and really wanted to focus on is both 2 Avenue Station and 7th Avenue. So we've made some changes to the alignment in the downtown where we are now recommending that we have found a way to stay underground through the downtown and build a station within the Eau Claire Market redevelopment site. And you may know this, that the owners of Eau Claire Market have had a plan to redevelop the site. That their plan was brought to Planning Commission a few years ago. And part of the direction that Calgary's Planning Commission gave the developer and the city at that time was to explore potential opportunities to integrate Greenline into the development. And so we've found some different ideas of how we could take inspiration from something like our new central library, and which we built over a portal where a train comes from underground to the surface. And we're taking the inspiration from that library and finding a way to, and this is a bit of an engineering drawing here to show, we're underground and just coming up to the surface in the Eau Claire development site. And our plan is to work with the developer, Harvard, to build an integrated system where we can integrate our station infrastructure into a future development on the site. So today, Harvard is working on what their development vision will be, understanding the Greenline will make changes through their site. So these are some initial sketches that we've drawn up to help articulate the idea. And so what we're showing here in the bottom left is that we might, on opening day, be able to build a station entrance at the corner of 2 Street and Riverfront Avenue, or in the site plan here, you can get a sense of where this area is. And in the future, Harvard would be able to build their podium and their towers above and adjacent to our station entrance over the tunnel area and fully encapsulate the system. And this way, you'll only know that the station is here by the presence of the corner entry system. The train would then come out from under their building, somewhere around Waterfront Mews, to get up on the bridge to go over the Bow River. So we've just started exploring ideas on this, and we'll be working with the developer over the next year to firm up a plan for the site. One more image here just to help you articulate or understand the idea is we're showing King Edward Station in Vancouver. And on their opening day, the city had built a station for their underground system. And then in the future, a developer was able to build above and beside. This is the exact same concept that we're looking to implement in the Eau Claire area. But we don't want to just implement this in Eau Claire. We're also interested in doing this at 7th Avenue and working with adjacent landowners to see if there's opportunities in existing or future developments to integrate our station entrances in the area. And we also have an interest to do the same in the Beltline. And so I'll touch on the Beltline alignment here. And on this image here, I'm showing the difference between the 2017 City Council approved alignment in yellow and our new recommended alignment in green. And so you can see the alignment now is solely along 11th Avenue until it dips around the Victoria Park Transit Facility. So the alignment, we're still working on the radius of the curve from 2 Street to 11th Avenue. And so the curve and exactly what buildings or what location it's located will flesh out in the next few months. And we're going to start having conversations with developers in the area to see if there's an interest to work with us to integrate stations around the 4th Street area and the Centre Street South area as well. And I should point out when we're looking at the, I just see the cleaning staff has just turned on the lights off in the building here. What I think it's important to point out with 11th Avenue, this is where we found some significant cost savings. That when we were looking at building the alignment from 12th Avenue to 10th Avenue, our real estate cost was much higher with that alignment because we are acquiring more land along the 10th Avenue area and as we're coming through this one S-curve area. The city owns the right-of-way from the Elbow River all along the alignment here until we start to go north up to 2 Street. So that was one of the ways that we've been able to address some of the cost issues in the project and also improve the user experience by providing 2 underground stations in this area. So finally, I'm going to move to the North Central BRT, where sharing previous that we are looking at two ways of improving that corridor, both from a customer service perspective and also from a transit priority perspective. And so since we last met, we've been exploring how buses operate in the area, interviewing transit operators to understand where there's some areas that could be improved. And we've identified a series of improvements we've identified on the map here. And those range from potentially having a dedicated bus lane from McKnight down to 16th Avenue, whether that's during the peaks or all times throughout the day. In other areas, looking at improvements to allow greater priority for buses through intersections, like a queue jump for buses at the intersection of Harvest Hills and 96th Avenue. We also are recommending overall improvements like improved customer amenities like MAX style BRT shelters along this corridor and providing transit signal priority at all of the signals. So these recommendations we're bringing forward to City Council, and we'll let them know that we need to now move to some functional planning to best identify and which improvements are the top priorities for the city to move forward with right away. So the next steps is we are bringing our recommendations on the segment 2 alignment to City Council's Green Line Committee on June 1st. At that time, there will be an opportunity for public feedback and for all of you to share your feedback with City Council on the changes. You're welcome to submit written submissions. They're due by 12 p.m. on May 25th. Or you can also sign up to speak at the meeting by following using this email, publicsubmissions@calgary.ca. And you can sign up to speak right up until the day of the Green Line Committee meeting, as long as the public input session is still active in that meeting. My final slide here, Dylan, and everyone else, is on the Green Line planning work program. And so I wanted to share this to give you a sense of there's a lot more work that we'll have after council makes a decision in June. That after June, we'll be working to advance the planning of the stations, the underground and integrated stations. We'll be building a planning program to plan out the bridge, streetscape planning, also looking at mobility studies to move to, and I won't touch on them because Dave and Ed will speak about the mobility studies. And I think it's important to point out that there'll be opportunities for stakeholder engagement and we'll keep up communications on the advancing of the planning over the next year as we move through those different items. And on that note, Dylan, I'm going to maybe hand the screen and video back to you, grab a glass of water and let the rest of the team jump in here.
All right, thank you, Graham Girillo, for that. And I know you probably sleep at the office, but it's too early to turn the lights out, so you may want to check on those as well. All right, next up, we're going to get to a point where we have some of our subject matter experts address some of the big topics we heard through engagement coming up. We'll do that for about 15 minutes, and then we're going to get into the Q&A. Thank you, everyone who's been sending their questions in to this point. We're going to kick those off in about 15 minutes. And just so you know, we've got 133 people watching right now. So hello to everyone who's joined late. Really happy to have you here. I'll also take this moment just to say that the presentation will be posted on our website in the coming days as well. So if you had to duck out, understandable, but we do hope you can stay for the question and answer portion as well. I'm now going to introduce Dave Thatcher to talk a little bit about mobility. Dave, you're going live now, and you're welcome to share your screen whenever you're ready.
One second here. So my name is Dave Thatcher. I'm a member of the consulting team working on Green Line, and I'm just going to be speaking a little bit about the mobility components and some of the questions and the themes of questions that we've heard from folks as we have been engaged with the public back in February, March, and then through the end of April. So going to start actually in the south portion here in the Beltline. So once the construction of the LRT is complete, there will be no impacts to vehicular traffic on 11th Avenue. Now, obviously during construction, particularly in the station areas, there will be some impacts at various points during construction. But once everything is complete, there will not be impacts to 11th Avenue. Graham had highlighted the Eau Claire area in his presentation and the integration of the station into that site. And so what this means is we had identified this as an area that we were exploring when we last met with you back in March. And what this means now with this integrated station is that we're no longer impacting 2nd Avenue or 2nd Street from a vehicular perspective. And you'll also notice on the image on your screen that Riverfront Avenue has the ability with the redevelopment of the Eau Claire site to extend into the site, as was the plans previously for the redevelopment of that site. One of the other areas as we make our way north onto Center Street that's been an area of question is the interaction between the vehicular traffic and the trains crossing. That crossing will be at grade, and that will cross the southbound direction of travel. It will not cross the northbound direction of travel. And so similar to the intersections that are located north of this point, there will be a control that's placed here so that vehicular traffic is stopped when the trains are going by. So just to speak a little bit about Center Street. So this is, we recognize a change, a significant change for what Center Street looks like today. So today where there's currently 3 lanes of traffic in the peak direction of flow during peak period. So in the morning, southbound, in the evening, northbound, that's going to be a single lane in each direction as part of this plan. So this will take the focus off of Center Street as a commuter route. While some people will still use it that way, it's really primarily going to be focused on local access and circulation. And that is the reason why we do have those vehicular lanes still present there, is because it really does facilitate the access to the neighborhoods and to the businesses. And one of the other things you'll note on here is that there's going to be signal controlled pedestrian crossings at least every 2 blocks. And one location, they're a little bit closer, they're a block apart, but it will be at least every 2 blocks that there will be an opportunity to cross the street. So one of the next questions that has come up is, where does Center Street traffic go? But to be able to really answer that, we have to really understand where the traffic on Center Street comes from today. And so there's lots of different ways you can look at this, but what we're showing here on this graphic is based on cell phone data, where folks are coming from that are traveling on Center Street over the bridge and into downtown. And so when you look at the statistics, and this is over about a 3-month period in the fall of last year, there's about 15% of the traffic, a little bit less, that's coming from the community south of 16th Avenue. Interestingly, about over 25% of the traffic comes from communities that are north of Bennington Trail. A little over 10% of the traffic comes from Deerfoot Trail and from points east of Deerfoot Trail. And actually about 10% of the traffic comes from communities that are along Crowchild Trail. And so that's information that we use when determining where will this traffic go. And so based on some of the initial modeling work that we have done, we anticipate that over 50% of the peak hour, peak direction of traffic, so again, that's southbound in the morning, northbound in the afternoon, will move onto parallel routes. And when we look at that cell phone data and the traffic patterns and the origins and destinations into downtown, that's where Deerfoot Trail, Edmonton Trail, 10th Street, 14th Street, and even Crowchild Trail come into play. In terms of what some of the next steps are, and Graham touched on this at the end of his presentation, we're going to be doing an overall North Network review, and that North Network review is going to determine what improvements are required on the parallel corridors to deal with the additional traffic that they will receive. The other thing we'll be doing a more significant deeper dive into is looking at business access, loading, parking off of the corridor that really addresses how the corridor will continue to function. And then also looking at modifications that will be required to neighborhood traffic calming as well. So that covers the presentation and hopefully addresses some of the questions that have come up so far with respect to mobility, and I'll hand it back to Dylan.
Thank you, Dave. Dave will be around for the question and answer, which will be coming up right away. I'd now like to introduce Josh Workman and Carly Silver. Josh will be speaking about the river crossing or the bridge, and Carly is a biologist. Through our engagement, we heard a lot about the bridge, and we heard a lot about people's concern for the environment, both animals and nature itself. So we've got both of them here to address some of the common questions for the river crossing. I'm now going to turn it over to Josh, and Josh, you can share your screen whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Dylan. My name's Josh. Great to be here with you all. I've been fortunate enough to be managing the efforts on the Bow River crossing as part of the Green Line team. And so I just wanted to build on some of what Graham had already shared with you as it relates to the Bow River crossing. And the first is really just to speak a little bit more about the alignment. And, we received a lot of questions about, what are the other alignments that the bridge could have? Could it tie in with First Street Southeast? Could we use the existing Blue Line LRT bridge? And really what I wanted to emphasize here is that we know we need to tie in to Center Street to the north and 2nd Street to the southwest. And so we have a bridge alignment that will need to make that connection to tie in with those two points. And we're limited on what the curve geometry can be over the bridge, that kind of S-curve shape that you can see. And that's really limited by the LRT design criteria. So the shape of those curves has to be large enough so that it'll accommodate the full build out of the train operation for the Green Line. That being said, and further to what Graham had shared, we know that there's some variability that we'll be able to explore as we move into the actual design process for the bridge itself. And the work for this will consider a lot of different factors. How do we mitigate the placement of piers in environmentally sensitive areas on Princess Island Park that Carly will speak a little bit more to? How do we shape this in a way that's aesthetically pleasing, that works for the tie-in with Center Street to the north? And those are all aspects that we'll have some flexibility to explore as we advance the bridge design. Further to what Graham had shared, we did develop these additional perspectives on Princess Island, which, just to emphasize, really help to give you a sense of what the bridge might look like on the island itself. We know this is a place that's important to Calgarians. I live close by. I'm out on the island here a lot and familiar with this place. And so it was helpful for me to see what might this bridge look like from this perspective on the Chevron learning pathway. And hopefully this gives you a sense of what it might look like as well. And further to what Graham had shared, there's the opportunity for us to use some unique architectural treatments in conjunction with the bridge architecture to help emphasize some of those gateways and transitions. And this is all something that we will be engaging Calgarians on in a much more extensive way following the council decision in June. And so there will be a thorough program to gather input and ideas on exactly what the bridge might look like. This is another perspective, a bit of a different render than what Graham had shared. So again, giving you that perspective of what it will feel like to walk along beside the bridge when you're on the Chevron learning pathway, walking around the reconstructed wetland. And then finally, again, that view looking to the east towards the bridge from the center of Princess Island Park. So to conclude, just some of the items we wanted to clarify that there will be some more detailed next steps on is clarifying the pedestrian and bicycle accommodation. So, we've made the recommendation that people who walk and bike should be accommodated on this new LRT bridge. What that actually looks like and the details of what it would be will be fleshed out in the design process following the council decision in June. Similarly, as we work through the tie-in and the integration with the south site at Eau Claire Market, there will be further design as it relates to how best to integrate with the Eau Claire Promenade and the flood mitigation project that is moving forward in that location right now. So, to emphasize here, this is a really important connection for all Calgarians, those who use it as a daily route for walking and cycling, those who like to come here to recreate, and those who live nearby and walk along it as a place of exercise. So we'll be working through exactly what that process will look like, and then that'll be integrated with the overall bridge design next steps. And that's where we're getting into a lot more detail around some of the technical investigations concerning the geotechnical, hydrotechnical, archaeological, and survey investigations, undertaking technical analysis in conjunction with public engagement to gain that more specific input on the bridge architecture, and then really advancing consideration for architectural solutions that best meet the objectives that are are defined by the input from Calgarians. And then that preferred bridge design will be advanced and finalized in conjunction with construction procurement and environmental approvals. And with that, I will pass it over to Carly to talk a little bit about the environmental aspects of the bridge. And Carly, I don't have your presentation here, so I'm going to my screen, if you can, Dylan, so that Carly can share up hers.
You bet. Carly, whenever you're ready, you're live now. You can share your screen. And folks, just while Carly's getting loaded here, we've got about 5 or 7 minutes left until we get to the Q&A. Thank you to the questions that have been coming in. Just to clarify, we originally posted that this would run until 8:30, but we are going to extend until 9 o'clock to try to get through as many questions as we can. And if you can't stay that long, the presentation will be posted again on our website in the coming days. Carly, it's all yours.
Thank you. So just building from what Josh has said, we understand that the bridge is crossing through some pretty special areas with both Princess Island Park and McHugh Bluff on the other side of Memorial Drive. Understanding this, our team has involved biologists like myself and a variety of other specialists to look at these alignments and the bridge options since the beginning. And one of our key recommendations was to try to minimize the footprint and the disturbance in the constructed wetland. We're also very aware of the impacts to the Bow River, what the impacts to the bluff look like, and also looking at things like what the detail of the bridge design looks like to make sure it's not a hazard for birds and other wildlife. As part of the bridge work, we'll be required to meet regulatory approvals at the municipal level. These include the City of Calgary's requirements for biophysical impact assessments, tree protection requirements, restoration requirements. We'll also meet the provincial requirements under the Water Act, the Public Lands Act, Environmental Protection Enhancement Act, Historical Resources Act, and the Alberta Wildlife Act. Similarly, for the federal regulations, the project must also meet the requirements under the Fisheries Act, the Canadian Navigable Waters Act, the Species at Risk Act, and the Migratory Birds Convention Act. Building from what we heard during our initial studies and the initial engagement, we understand that there are a few key concerns that people have already identified. One of them is bridge shadowing. So shadowing from the bridge will not be stationary and will move throughout the day with the movement of the sun, especially given that the bridge is a north-south bridge as opposed to east-west. This means that sunlight can pass both over and under the bridge, so the shadow is only on a small strip of the Bow River or the given pathway or a particular spot in the park for a short time each day. So it's not the same shadow concern that we see with buildings in this area that have a much bigger shadow that has a more permanent area where that part of the pathway may never see sunlight. Similarly with graffiti, the bridge pillars, there are a variety of ways that graffiti can be deterred or easily abated, such as the use of international art, such as murals or specific surface materials that can discourage graffiti. With respect to public safety, the bridge design will definitely consider sightlines and other features like lighting to make sure that we keep those public spaces comfortable and don't create dangerous dark spaces. The constructed wetland and the lagoon area, we know that those are very important areas. They're very beautiful spaces that I also enjoy. I do live near here as well and spend a lot of time there seeing the wood ducks and all the other variety of species that come through here. So impacts to the constructed wetland and lagoon can be mitigated by the bridge design itself. And while there's potential for a pillar of the bridge to be located in or adjacent to these, construction can be strategically timed and use very specific methodologies to reduce the impact to wildlife and vegetation in the area, and also look at any of those temporary impacts to restore that vegetation after to make sure it integrates with those natural features. During construction, there definitely will be some disturbance to the wildlife and the vegetation. It's just the nature of construction. But those can be managed and dealt with in ways that are sensitive to the vegetation and wildlife and park users. And once construction and restoration is complete, the permanent features of the bridge will only be the pillars themselves that don't require a lot of ongoing maintenance. So much like other bridges on the Bow River, it'll just be the pillars and then the vegetation can kind of grow around them and the features can recover. We understand that flood mitigation and not creating flood issues or other hazards is a huge concern, and this will be part of our detailed technical assessments as we move through the bridge design. And so that's it for me. So Dylan, I'll turn it back over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Carly. And I'm going to go right over to Andy Payton. Andy is an engineer with the project. And Andy, I'll just let you introduce yourself, and then you could share your screen whenever you're ready.
Hi, everyone. My name is Andy Payton. I'm one of the civil engineers, design engineers on the Green Line project at and I've been working on the project now for a few years. What I'm going to talk to you a little bit tonight about is noise and vibration, and how we deal with how we propose to deal with noise and vibration on the Green Line project. The City of Calgary surface transportation and noise policy doesn't really deal with transit noise adequately. It's more about road noise and the impacts of road noise. So what you know about road noise is that it's sort of a constant noise, that sort of background noise of the cars going constantly, where transit noise is more transient. It's as the train goes by, you hear the noise, you feel the vibration, and then it goes away, but it happens repetitively. So what we did is we started to look at other guidelines in the industry that would help us to make appropriate choices with respect to noise and vibration. And we've found several international standards, but the one that we've chosen to use for the Green Line is the U.S. Federal Transportation Noise and Vibration Impact Assessment Tool. And that's a tool that was designed specifically for transit projects, light rail transit in particular, that addresses that noise and vibration. And it compares.
Sorry to interrupt you. I'm just going to let you know that your screen hasn't been shared, just in case you thought it had.
I thought it had, so I will figure out what I missed here, and
no problem. Take a moment to do that, and I think your explanation was quite clear. So just take a moment to get that loaded up. Just so everybody knows, immediately following Andy, we're going to be opening the Q&A, and we're going to have up to the next hour to address the questions that have been coming in. Jess Connors will do a quick briefing about how it's going to work, and we're going to get right to it. Okay, Andy, I can see your screen here, so go ahead.
Great. So what I was explaining was that we're choosing to use a very stringent noise and vibration policy or standard that the design will be required to meet. One of the major elements of design with respect to noise and vibration, or an impact on noise and vibration, is the vehicles themselves. And the vehicles that we're procuring for Green Line are not the same as the vehicles that you're used to on the existing C-train, the high floor system where you can see the undercarriage of the train. We're looking at state-of-the-art low floor type vehicles that are required to meet stringent noise and vibration standards. And what they're intended to do is they have suspensions that help control noise and vibration, and they also have body panels and enclosures that enclose the undercarriage of the vehicle that attenuate noise from the systems and that wheel rail interface. We look at track design, and the track design is a major factor in dealing with noise and vibration. So we're looking at the type of fastening systems that attach the track to the substrate, to the ground, and how different systems like high performance fasteners with rubber inserts can be used to manage noise and vibration. And we look at it as a system, and so each of the various elements contribute to noise and vibration. So track curvature, bridge, whether it's a steel bridge or a concrete bridge, whether it's in a tunnel, how deep is the tunnel, what is the frequency of the trains, and how fast are the trains running? Are they accelerating, decelerating, are they braking? So we look at all of those elements together, and we apply this standard, and we look at noise and vibration relative to the existing conditions. So we go out and measure the ambient noise of the existing area, and we measure and we use the evaluation to see if the noise would be increased and by how much. And if the noise gets above a certain level, mitigation measures are required. And we look at vibration by doing field measurements to actually measure how well or the existing ground propagates vibration. So different materials, different soils, whether it's rock or gravel or soil, transmits vibration in a different way. So during the geotechnical investigation, we actually measure how vibration flows through the soil, and we use that as an input into our modeling. And the noise and vibration modeling starts in the preliminary design phase. So we haven't done that yet for the project, but we will start to do that as we start to finalize the alignment. And we will input all these factors into a noise and vibration model that will predict where noise and vibration standards will be exceeded, and then we can start to input mitigation measures till we're satisfied that the standards that we've set can be met. And then when the detailed design is done by the contractor, they will be required to do a noise and vibration study that the city will review and ensure that their design meets the standards. And then once the vehicle is being commissioned and the system is being commissioned, there will be noise and vibration tests done during that phase to confirm that the noise and vibration mitigation measures have been effective, and if they're not, modifications will be required. And that's a summary of noise and vibration for the Green Line, and I'll turn it back to Dylan.
Thanks, Andy. I'm now going to bring Jess Connors up on the screen for the moderated Q&A. I really want to thank everyone for sticking around through the presentation. I recognize and acknowledge that it was an hour, it may have been long, but we really hope the content was valuable to you, both the original presentation as well as addressing some of the common questions and concerns we heard through engagement. In the Q&A chat, I'm going to post a link to a follow-up survey where you can give us feedback both on the use of the technology for the event, which I mentioned is new to us for the most part, as well as on the content tonight, and we really do appreciate your feedback, and we'll be looking at it as soon as tomorrow. Jess, I'm going to put you live now. If you could do a brief intro of how you're going to run through the Q&A, and we'll get right to it.
Thanks, Dylan. Yeah, so I'm going to run the Q&A. We have a lot of questions, so we'll try to get through as many as we can. The way I'm going to run it is that we've kind of categorized the questions between the focus areas and then some general stage 1 questions. So we have the most in the general column, so I'll start with those and then I'll move through the focus areas. And if we have time, I'll come back around to the general questions and kind of keep running through the focus areas that way. Okay, so the first question is in that general stage 1 category. It is, given the recent sharp decline in ridership due to COVID-19, does the city have any plans to postpone or rescope the project? Is now really the right time to build mass transit or a new event center?
So thank you for that question. This is Graham here. And I touched on this in my intro, so maybe I'll reaffirm some of the points I covered. And first, the city sees Green Line as being really important to Calgary's economic recovery. And this project is anticipated to create around 20,000 jobs. It's already putting Calgarians to work in our Enabling Works program. And once the main contract is awarded, that will start to spur more jobs throughout the city. And not just jobs with construction workers, but they'll be spending, people working this project will be spending money in the community, which then will start to spread, the project funding throughout the city. Also, we feel that moving forward, Green Line today readies Calgary for tomorrow's recovery. Green Line is scheduled to open in 2027, so we still have 7 more years until the system's ready. And as with other investments the city's made during economic challenging periods, those investments have paid off. That when the economy in Calgary rebounded, we had new infrastructure in place to support our growing city. And Greenline for us is a long play. So it's a long-term investment in the future and the growth of Calgary. So for us, we feel it is important to continue investing today so we have a system that readies the city of the future. Thanks, Jess.
Okay, thanks, Graham. The next question is incremental expansion north to 28th Avenue or 40th Avenue realistic when you still have to run BRT downtown? You've stated Greenline would need to go to 64th Ave in order to accommodate bus transfers.
So I'll take that one, Dylan. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Here, Dave.
Okay, perfect. So I think, yes, we have looked at this. The incremental expansion is definitely something that is realistic. It could come in single station increments. It could come in a couple together. It's really going to be dependent on what that future funding looks like. And I think to the comment with respect to the BRT, it's going to depend where that expansion goes to determine, whether or not there would be a termination of the BRT and a forced transfer. But up to a certain point, there would still be continuing to have the buses run into downtown as we're doing with the terminus being at 16th.
Okay, thanks, Dave. So the next question is, the city highlights potential benefits of the project and downplays or omits most of the cost. Why doesn't the city present all costs and benefits in an unbiased manner such that citizens can have an informed opinion?
Thanks, Jess. This is Graham speaking here again. So I was sharing in my earlier presentation that the city is committed to delivering Greenline within our $4.9 billion project budget. And so we've focused on the high number in our communications and to demonstrate that our commitment is to build a program for Calgary's LRT infrastructure within that budget, to carefully manage the budget and manage risk. And we've been doing that to de-risk the project with some of the changes we've been making in the downtown to minimize any chance or to minimize the chance that the project could exceed its budget. And really, we're looking at the benefits. So we don't really get into the full details. I understand that in the scope of the project, but the details are really the outcomes. And that I was mentioning earlier that we're building infrastructure for today's generation, future's generations, creating jobs today, improving mobility choices for Calgarians, and that's really where our focus is. Thanks, Jess.
Okay. Next question is, what's going on with this website, www.greenlineinfo.ca? It seems misleading as it looks like a City of Calgary page, but it's not.
So that is not a City of Calgary page. The City of Calgary website is calgary.ca/greenline.
Okay. Next question. If the Green Line is canceled, what happens to the federal dollars that have been committed to support the project? Will those funds disappear and go to another city? If Green Line is canceled, could the allocated funds be used for alternate styles of transit that are more COVID responsive and nimble?
So I'll take that again, Jess. So I can't speak to other orders of government and how they would spend their budgets. What I can speak to is our agreement with those two levels of government. And we have funding agreements in place to build an LRT system from 16th Avenue North down to the community of Shepherd. And so if the city wished to make any changes to either the alignment outside of that 16th Avenue to Shepherd alignment, or to change the project for other infrastructure projects, that would require renegotiating all the agreements with our funding partners.
Okay, I'll do another general one here. So this question is, we all know that the efficiency of the trip improves ridership. How has the speed of the trip impacted the design choice?
I can get that. The speed of the trip has increased slightly from the original So back in the 2017 alignment, the run time from end to end was approximately 34 minutes. Right now, we're estimating the run time to be about 37 minutes. So there's been an increase in run time of about 3 minutes over the entire length.
Okay, thanks, Andy. I'm going to move on to some questions about the Center Street focus area. So the first one for Center Street is, why have the line run in the middle of Center Street? If it runs on the west side, then the power lines won't have to span the entire width of the road.
So I can take that answer as well, Jess, and others can maybe join in. So we've evaluated different ways to operate the LRT on Center Street, and we shared with the public back in March that we were exploring at that time either a middle running or a curbside running. And with a curbside running, we were meaning the train operating on both sides of the street. We had previously explored a fully west side running LRT on the street and found that created a lot more challenges to the overall mobility network, that it would end up requiring some of the avenues to be closed, would make it more difficult for left turns into the community, and actually would narrow some of the public realm areas, since we would need to have a bit more space to have the platforms down the center down the center of the road for one of the sides. I guess I'm not explaining that well there. So certainly we've looked at it and felt that the system would not work well on Center Street.
Okay. The next Center Street question is, what traffic studies have been done in Crescent Heights near Center Street?
So I can take that one, Dylan. We have been looking at the traffic on Center Street, the traffic patterns along the parallel routes, as well as I discussed in the presentation that I gave. But we also recognize that a more in-depth study needs to be done. And as we highlighted, that's really what's going to be happening. Once we have council's approval of the alignment, that's where the next step will happen, and we'll go into a greater degree of detail into those studies.
Okay, so we'll do one more Center Street question before I move on. So this one is, putting the LRT on Center Street would cause significant congestion, especially in those narrow sections. If Green Line moves forward with the new alignment, why not pedestrianize Center Street south of 16th Avenue? For example, access only to LRT buses, pedestrians, cyclists, and emergency vehicles.
I'll take that one as well, and it touched on this a little bit in my presentation, but it really has to do with the access to the businesses that are along the corridor, as well as the communities along the corridor. So that's the reason we wouldn't fully pedestrianize Center Street. Okay,
I'm going to move on to some questions about the bridge and the river crossing. So the first question is, with respect to the 23 homes the city intends to destroy and redevelop in River Run, why has the city made no effort to involve the owners in their land in the redevelopment of the land?
We're just seeing if Sarah is on the line or not.
So I'm seeing, this is Dylan, I'm seeing in the chat that Sarah's had a connection issue and is trying to get back on right now. So let's hang on for 1 minute and we'll see if she, oh, Max, we might have to have somebody drop off video. Perhaps Carly, you could drop off for right now and we'll see if maybe there's Sarah. Okay, great. So I'm going to get Sarah up here. I'm also just going to let you guys know that even though Jess is moving on through focus areas, we will be coming back. And so what we're trying to do is just go in rotation of focus areas so we can try to spread the questions out evenly amongst all the focus areas. I'm now going to introduce Sarah Quayle. She's with our real estate department. Sarah, you are live. I'm afraid you're muted, Sarah. Doesn't seem to be getting audio from you. Looks like, okay. Okay, Sarah, after this, maybe if you want to type a response in, we could read that out for you, and then it might take restarting the program. So Jess, can you please repeat the question? And Sarah will type it out and I will read her answer.
Sure. So the question was, with respect to the 23 homes the city intends to destroy and redevelop in River Run, why has the city made no effort to involve the owners in the redevelopment of that land?
Sarah's going to be taking just a moment to type there. How about we go to the next question while she types up her answer here. And folks, this is one of those technology moments. I asked you to bear with us in the beginning. Sometimes this stuff can happen. And so we're going to get you an answer to that question. But right now we're going to go to the next just while Sarah gets that ready into the chat. Go ahead, Jess.
Sure. The next question would be, with the new bridge alignment versus the tunnel, will bike access from Samus to Crescent Road be maintained?
So Josh here, I can answer that one, and the answer is yes, it will be maintained. We will have a at-grade crossing of the LRT once the bridge ties in with the north end of the crossing, such that pedestrian and bicycle users will be able to cross safely to get up into West Crescent Heights and also to access the Center Street Bridge.
Okay, I can move on unless Sarah is ready.
Let's go on to another one, Jess, and we'll give her another minute here.
I'm going to move on to a downtown question now. So that would include stations at 2nd Avenue and 7th Avenue. So the first question is, why is there no information on the underground portion, which will be the most expensive part of the entire project?
So this is Graham speaking here. So I'm wondering if perhaps this question came in before we covered the downtown area. So in summary, in the downtown area, we shared today that we are looking to integrate the 2 Avenue station into the Eau Claire Market redevelopment site, and that would put the station underground from 2 Avenue all the way through downtown into the Beltline. There would be another underground station at 7th Avenue Southwest. And again, we're looking to explore opportunities with adjacent landowners to integrate into that area. And I guess I didn't spend as much time in the presentation today since our focus really has been on areas of change, and those areas of change have mostly been with the bridge and above grade surface. So if this individual has more questions that they were looking to ask, I would encourage them to put that into the thread, Jessica, so we can find out a bit more, maybe what they were looking to learn about the downtown.
Sure, yeah, we can try to get clarification. So the next question I'll ask in the downtown section is, will there be any special infrastructure like pedestrian tunnels, station entrances near the surface stations to facilitate connections between the green line and red and blue lines at 7th Ave?
I can take that one. It's Agnes here. Oh, or Graham, you're already live, so maybe you go ahead.
Well, Agnes, the folks haven't seen you yet. Would you mind just introducing yourself maybe before you answer the question?
Sure thing. My name is Agnes Zakowski. I'm part of the Green Line team, working in the downtown on station design and tunnel design. So in terms of the connectivity between 7th Avenue Station and the red and blue line, 7th Avenue Station is envisioned to be the highest ridership station and a key transfer point for all the systems in Calgary. As such, there's going to be a high level of focus on pedestrian movements between the LRT lines, street design, road design, and urban realm, as well as station entrances to make sure that connections work smoothly. In terms of underground connections, as Graham was mentioning in his presentation, it depends on how whether the stations are integrated into the developments and how that opens up potential for +15 connections or underground connections into adjacent buildings and the whole area.
Okay, thank you, Agnes. Jess, so at this point, I think Graham is going to answer the question about River Run. Just so we have it all together, could you please repeat that question, and then we'll have Graham Jarillo answer.
Sure. So again, the question was, with respect to the 23 homes the city intends to destroy and redevelop in River Run, why has the city made no effort to involve the owners of their land in the redevelopment?
Yeah, and so I'm happy to answer that question on behalf of Sarah from our real estate team. That we're in the early stages of planning right now for the alignment. What we do know is that the alignment will require us to purchase lands at the River Run condominium site. The exact location still is to be determined of what we need for both the portal area that I was showing in the earlier rendering and also for the space to construct the site. So we're not at that level of conversation where we can even talk yet about what potential surplus lands might be remaining from construction.
Okay, thanks, Graham. I'll move on. So I'm going to jump back into the downtown questions. So the next question would be, so it says, you say 2nd Avenue in the north for underground to start, but the plan shows underground starting somewhere in Eau Claire Market. Which is it?
Yeah, so as I was sharing a render that the bridge will land somewhere around Waterfront Mews area approximately, River Run land, Waterfront Mews, and that's where it'll go underground. And that's where it'll go underground in the Harvard Development Site area. So the name of the station is 2 Avenue, but we actually start to go underground likely around Waterfront Mews.
Okay, thanks, Graham. The next question, are there currently any underground tunnels downtown that were built to allow for future transit plans?
Yeah, so I can answer that question as well, Jessica. There's a small section of an underground tunnel under Calgary's municipal building. And when the municipal building was built, I believe in the 1980s, a tunnel was pre-built to allow for the future Red Line tunnel. And so you may not know this, but there's a vision that the Red Line, which comes from South Calgary, eventually would go under Calgary City Hall and make its way under 8th Avenue or Stephen Avenue. And that's the only underground section of pre-built tunnel, Jessica.
Okay, thanks. I'm going to move on to a Beltline question now.
Actually, Jeff, just before you do that, it looks like Sarah is back here. I'm just gonna, Sarah, do you want to test your microphone and see if it's working?
Yes, thank you. Is
Okay.
it working now?
Yeah, we can hear you, Sarah. We can't see you, but we can hear you. And so at this point, now that you're here, is there anything you wanted to add to the response to the question about River Run?
I think Graham probably would have answered it quite well. I didn't hear all of it. I did hear the beginning before I had to shut down and restart. So I trust he had it and covered everything that needed to be said. I won't repeat anything.
Okay, well, good to know you're with us if other questions come up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Jess, over to you.
Okay, so moving on to a Beltline question. So the question is, seems like the Beltline is getting an inferior alignment down 11th Avenue instead of 12th Avenue for no real transit user wins. Isn't mobility needs the #1 aspect versus short-term cost cutting?
Oh, sorry, I didn't know if Agnes, if you're jumping into that or if you'd like me to jump into that.
Go ahead.
Happy, okay, I'm happy to start to jump into that. So I was sharing earlier in my presentation that the original alignment of the Beltline, part of it was on 12th Avenue, and that was on the west side of the Beltline. And then on the east side of the Beltline, east of McLeod Trail, our alignment moved up to 10th Avenue. as part of our exercise to make changes to the alignment, I was sharing earlier as well that we had 3 objectives, and one was to bring our cost in within our cost estimates within our capital budget of $4.9 billion, manage construction risk, and improve the user experience. And so the 11th Avenue alignment, we feel achieves all 3 of those. First, from a construction or from a cost perspective, we've been able to reduce the cost of the alignment, the alignment in the Beltline significantly by realigning everything to 11th Avenue. The major cost savings for us are doing that. We're avoiding the need to acquire a lot of property on the east side of the Beltline area because on 11th Avenue, the city owns the entire right-of-way. We're also able to manage construction risk with this alignment by shallowing up the tunnels so they're not as deep, which helps contribute to our cost savings and construction risk mitigation. And then from a user perspective, we recognize that the 11th Avenue is 1 block off of 12th Avenue, so there is added pedestrian time within the west side of the Beltline for Calgarians. But also on the east side, we're bringing the alignment 1 block closer to where people live and closer to the new event center and to Stampede Park. So we feel that both alignments offer generally great value. 12th Avenue, frankly, would be a more expensive alignment than 11th Avenue. It would require us to purchase more real estate. And so when we're trying to build a system that achieves the cost, the risk, and the user experience benefits, we feel the 11th is the best solution in the Beltline.
Okay, thanks. So I'm going to swing back around and start doing a few more general questions. Like I said, we have the most of those. So the next question up is the current plan includes a section north of the river and a section south of the river. Why not do either the entire north end or the entire south end?
I might see if Dave wants to jump in because I've been talking a lot, and if not, Dave, I can answer that one.
I can jump in there for that one if you want, Graham. So the reason that we're building in both a section north and a section south really is the ease of expandability. And so this allows us to do those incremental expansions in both directions on the Green Line. And that's really how the LRT system in Calgary has historically grown, is that those incremental expansions have happened. And so that's really the rationale behind it.
Okay, I'll move on to the next question. Out of all the available public investments, why should the city prioritize Green Line?
So Jessica, thank you. I'll jump in for that one. So City Council made a decision in 2017 that Green Line was a priority project for the city. Green Line achieves some of the visions and objectives of the municipal development plan to support our growing city. It supports objectives of our Calgary transportation plan to provide mobility choices and help Calgarians get around the city. We feel that Green Line is important because it will connect people to places across the city. Green Line as a system will reduce the environmental impact of transportation by providing greener transportation choices. And the list goes on of many of the benefits. So City Council in 2017, when they made the decision to approve this project, approved the project understanding all the different benefits that this has from an environmental, a social, and a mobility perspective.
Okay, thanks, Graham. The next question, how will the city adapt if Calgarians insist that the section between the Bow River and 16th Avenue North be underground?
So again, Jessica, I'll answer that question as well. Administration's making this recommendation to City Council to connect 16th Avenue North to Shepherd in the south. And to many of the points that Dave just raised, we feel it's important to connect north and south today because it readies Green Line for incremental expansions to the north and the south in the future. We also have shared with City Council that getting to the north today is really important. The 16th Avenue station will be the 3rd busiest station on the Stage 1 network, with the 2nd busiest or the 1st busiest being downtown and then also in the community of Shepherd. That said, if City Council wishes to direct us to build a different alignment, our job is to take the direction from City Council. We're providing our best professional recommendation of what we feel is the right investment for Calgary today. And if City Council chooses to take that in a different direction, our job will be to build the system that they ask us to build.
Okay, thanks. So I'm going to move to, this is a bit of a Center Street question. How are the pedestrian, public transit, and biking realm being prioritized over vehicle traffic on Center Street? On the renderings, it seems that vehicle traffic is running right next to the sidewalk with no barrier. This isn't best practice. How will this design facilitate spaces for people and active transportation instead of endless suburban-bound vehicle traffic that currently destroys Crescent Heights public spaces?
I can start to address that, and it sounds like, because there's a long question there, a multi-part, that others in the team, I'll encourage you to jump in as well. I think I'll first start with the design of the street, and I understand the question being perhaps why are cars running in the curb lane versus the LRT, and I was sharing earlier that we actually evaluated running the train at curbside instead of vehicles. And we found that when a train was running curbside, that meant that vehicles driving down Center Street would be in the middle lane. And if they were to make a right-hand turn, they would need to first move over the LRT line and then make their way through the intersection. And while that movement is not super challenging, it means that they have to be paying attention to two things. They need to be paying attention to LRT traffic and then paying attention to pedestrians in the intersection to make sure it's safe and clear for them to go through. And we found that if we move the cars to the curbside lane, they're focusing on one thing when they're making the right-hand turn, and that's looking for pedestrians. So we feel from a pedestrian safety perspective, this alignment starts to ensure that we're not affecting those kinds of sight lines. Also, when we're looking to build streetscapes, and this is common in many areas of the city, as you plant trees and put different street furniture, such as streetlight poles and benches, that actually starts to create a bit of an informal buffer between pedestrians and cars. It also often seems to slow vehicle traffic down because it starts to create a perceived feeling of friction between a motorist with the environment beside them, because the trees and the street lights are feeling closer to them. So it actually raises more attention to a driver to pay attention to their surroundings. So those are some of the reasons that we feel that the LRT configuration we're recommending provides a safe, comfortable pedestrian environment, while also really thinking about the motorist vehicle interaction. I don't know if others on the team had more to add into that.
Graham, just one item I might add in just to close off another piece of the question is that the right-of-way on Center Street North is not wide enough to accommodate formal bicycle facilities. However, there are parallel routes on First Street Northeast and 2nd Street Northwest that provide really good connectivity north-south in Crescent Heights. So that's a way that bicycle users will be accommodated together with good quality bike parking along Center Street North where it can be accommodated so users can go and park their bicycles while they attend to shops and businesses along the street.
Okay, thanks, Josh and Graham. So the next question is also about Center Street. The question is, what properties will be affected by the 9th Avenue North Station and how will they be affected? Is there enough room to build a station there?
So I'll maybe start the conversation and then Sarah Quayle from Real Estate might jump in. We're at an early stage in planning right now, so we've not identified the full property requirements in this section of the alignment. We certainly have identified that in some areas we will require acquisition or purchase of some sidewalk space to ensure that there's some good pedestrian movement on the streets. And part of our planning objectives with the 9th Avenue station were to minimize, where possible, any impacts to adjacent buildings. So that way we're really integrating into the current business community that's there today. But more work still is needed to confirm the exact dimensions of the area. So we've not been able to confirm all of the property requirements.
Okay, Sarah, did you have anything to add, or should we move on?
Sorry, I was reviewing some information. I didn't catch what you were asking there.
Oh, we were just talking about the impact of 9th Avenue possibly on properties on Center Street.
And sorry, Sarah, I was just sharing how
sure.
We've not quite finalized the design in that area, so we've maybe not identified all the proper requirements, but our objective is to minimize impacts to those properties through the station design.
Right. So that's still being determined. Once we have some more information from the team, from the design, we'll be able to advance further. What we have been able to do is start to do some research impacts to property values along the Green Line, and I can tell you that the general findings coming out of that research and the analysis coming back from the consultants is indicating that generally there is a positive uplift to values within the proximity of LRT stations.
Okay, I'm going to ask a bridge question now. So that question is a local architect designing the bridge, or has this employment opportunity been sent out of the country?
So I'll jump into that one as well. So the bridge architect is part of our owner's engineering team. Many of the folks who are on the phone call today are part of that team, and that team is made up of people who work both locally across the nation and also some international folks. But there will not be a new competition for the bridge architects, since that architect was part of the team that's already leading the planning and design work.
Okay, I'm going to ask a question about downtown now. So the question is, how is the city preparing for any lawsuits related to expropriation of homes in Eau Claire and elsewhere?
Hi, Jess. I'll take that one. So with regards to property impacts at Eau Claire and anywhere else, the city right now is looking at moving forward with negotiation with all owners. There are no expropriation proceedings taking place or planned at this time. So for us to be able to get into the position where there is an expropriation, it does require council approval, and we are not there. So it is our intent to advance with negotiations with all owners, and we've already got some of our team out and in contact with residents at River Run. We are in conversations with them there. We are willing and continue to talk to them, but until we have some council approval, which is what we're looking forward to receiving in June, then we'll be able to advance to the next stages of those negotiations with those owners. And also, we do have a property acquisition information sheet that we can share with owners, and we're happy to share.
All right, thank you, Sarah. It froze up just at the end there, but I think it was just on the end of the sentence there. You were just saying that you do have a property acquisition information sheet that you can share with owners. So maybe we could share that afterwards or share with our presentation.
Yes.
So how about the team? Let's just make a note right now that when we put the video up in the next few days, we'll add that file so people have access to it, and that will be on engage.calgary.ca/greenline. Jess, you can go to the next question. Now you're muted, Jess. I'm glad it wasn't just me this time. Thank you.
It's bound to happen at some point. Okay, so sorry guys. The question is, are there concerns with the tunnel starting so close to the river, even with the new flood remediation recently completed?
I can take that one. It's Agnes here. Both the stations and the tunnels and the portals that are being designed account for the flood elevations that the city and the province have been working on, and that include that incorporate some of the mitigations that are in place. And because of the scale and the expensive infrastructure that we're putting in, we're actually going above and beyond the regular standards that the city imposes on other developments, such that we can essentially raise our entrances a bit higher, raise our portals a bit higher, such that we built in that protection day one and avoid 1 in 100, 1 in 200 year flood events.
Okay, thanks, Agnes. So I'll move on to a Beltline question now. This question is, will 11th Avenue be open to traffic during the underground construction phase?
You want me to take that? I will. Right now, we haven't sorted out the construction phasing of the work. So on 11th Avenue, we're currently contemplating that from 4th Street west, 4th Street southeast to the west will be in a tunnel, board tunnel, with a station around Center Street that will be cut and cover. We anticipate that there will be an opportunity to keep lanes open during that construction. However, we should expect some periodic closures. Those details will be worked out as we develop the design, but ultimately the construction phasing will be by the contractor. Although the city will set the guidelines that the contractor will need to apply, will need to abide by for traffic management during construction.
Okay, thanks. So I'm gonna do a general question now. So the question is, will engineering drawings be made public for the full first stage? If so, when?
So I can jump into that to start here, that due to the nature of our procurement process, and so we're procuring this project as a design, build, finance project. So we will be issuing to market what we call reference concept drawings, and that is notionally a 30% level of design detail that the contractors who bid on the project will be using to build their pricing and build the design for the project. So due to the nature of the procurement process, we are unable to release that information to members of the public for to ensure that we're receiving and having a fair competitive process with our bidders.
Okay, thanks, Graham. I'm going to ask a Center Street question. Why is there a green barrier between the vehicles and the center LRT? I think they're referencing a rendering, and no barrier between the vehicle lanes and sidewalk.
It's Agnes here. I can jump in on that one. What you see in the rendering is it's some grass in the shadow of the left-hand turn bay. So there's an opportunity in certain locations to provide some landscaping treatment between the LRT and the traffic lanes, but that is not typically the case. It's typically outside of the station areas or in the shadow of the left-hand turn bays.
Okay, thanks, Agnes. Next question, how will the train impact non-BRT routes like the number 2 and number 3?
I can take that one. So the number 3, for example, would continue to run in the single lane of traffic. So really the buses that would be running in the LRT and sharing the LRT right of way are the express buses and the BRT. The local routes would stay in the curb lane and continue the service in the way they have it today.
Okay, thanks, Dave. I'm going to ask a bridge question now. So the question is, I have concerns about the plan for the Bow River Bridge to cross at grade the southbound lane of Center Street. This seems like a major liability issue. Can't the bridge fly over the southbound lane and join the middle of Center Street at grade?
Yeah, so I can start on that, and then I'll pass over to Dave if there's any pieces I miss. But from a feasibility perspective, this is something that would be possible to cross over and do a grade separation at the tie-in between Center Street and the bridge connection. But this would really increase the visual prominence of the bridge itself. It would be going up about additional 5.5 meters from what's shown on the current renderings. That also means there'd be a steeper grade for people who walk and bike over the bridge. But really the reason that we're not recommending that is because we don't necessarily have a justification for it with the volume of traffic that we're anticipating will be traveling on Center Street after the Green Line is introduced at grade. And so this wouldn't be a warranted investment of project cost for what it would introduce for the project overall.
Okay, thanks, Josh.
Before you get to your next question, just letting everyone know, we have about 10 minutes left here, and we'll call it 15 because we started just at about 8:05. So we're going to go till 9:05 tonight. So we'll go for about 10 more minutes of Q&A, and then we'll wrap it up. We still have about 100 people live and in the event right now. So thanks to everyone for all the questions coming in, and I'm going to turn it back to Jess for the next.
Okay, so the next question is, the Center Street Bridge is an important visual element in our river valley. Do you have any renderings which show the relationship between the existing bridge and the new bridge?
Yeah, I can cover that as well, Dylan, and I'm just going to pull a rendering up on my screen. So just give me a moment. And then let me know when you're able to put that live there, Dylan.
Yeah, it should be coming up live right away, so you can start speaking to it now.
Great. So this is a rendering that some of you may have seen before in some of our materials, and it shows an example of what the bridge might look like looking south across Memorial Drive, the Bow River, and Princess Island towards downtown. And this is from the pathway along the Sunnyside Bank Park. And you can see the Center Street Bridge kind of in the left-hand side of the photograph. So this gives an idea of the relationship, even just spatially, between the new proposed bridge and the existing Center Street Bridge. We know from an architectural perspective that the consideration for, how to make these bridges complementary or consider one another in a way that respects the significant architectural history of the Center Street Bridge and its importance to the city is something that the bridge architects will need to consider as they develop the design. So that is all.
Okay, thanks, Josh. I'm going to move on to a downtown question. So the question is, in some municipalities, the station, like at 2nd Avenue, has been integrated into a commercial development, benefiting the developer who has shared the cost of the station. Has the city investigated this option, and what was the outcome or response from the developer?
Graham, do you want to take this one, or do you want me to?
Sorry, Sarah, my sound was off and I missed that. Could you please take that?
Okay, so this is with regards to station integration and working with developers. We are out exploring opportunities where it is possible for us to work with the private developers to have stations integrated. And this is something that the city would like to see and achieve, and find opportunities that where we can have meet the vision for both the developer and the city to provide access to citizens to get from the transit station to their final destination, and the freedom of movement, and have the spaces integrated and working well together. Graham, is there anything like you would like to expand on that, or anything extra you'd like to cover?
I think the key maybe with that as well, Sarah, is that, you know, how we address integrating stations with different developers. It's going to be on a case-by-case basis, understanding the local context, what the different opportunities are for connections into, say, the Plus 15 system. So it's really going to, how we approach this will be unique in their own situations. Just as we've been talking about at the Eau Claire station, we're exploring integrating not just the station, but our entire infrastructure within the footprint there. That's going to be a lot different process of how we manage that versus an area at 7th Avenue or in Center Street, where we might be looking just for an entrance and no other infrastructure inside one of the adjacent developments.
This is Dylan again. Sarah, while you're here, in the Q&A, we had some questions earlier about River Run, and we've got some frustration in the chat. And so I just really want to acknowledge that and just bring you back here and see if there's anything else you'd like to share or offer for those who maybe wanted to be in touch with real estate staff, or any other information you can provide.
Yeah, sure, Dylan, thanks. So every one of the owners in River Run has been contacted, or should have been contacted by representatives from the city through our real estate team. They would have received a letter, and that would have had the contact information for the owner in that unit to speak with directly with one of our staff. We're happy if you haven't reached out to or responded to the letter, please do so. We're happy to talk to you. We're happy to work through, answer as many questions as we can. If we don't have the answers, we'll work to investigate and get the information for you. There is, our initial process is to work with you, understand your questions, answer the questions, and give you some information about how the process works. And it is something that we do want to help and work with you on. So yeah, please do reach out. If you don't have that information, maybe reach out through the comments here, and we can provide that one-on-one to you directly. Dylan, perhaps there's a way that we can set that up, if there's a link that we can provide, so that anyone that maybe has not received the contact, we can make sure that they're notifying us and we can reach out to them directly.
Yeah, thanks for that, Sarah. And I really want to make sure that, you know, if for some reason that letter has not reached anyone, we want to make sure that you get the contact that you deserve to have. And so you can, you know, you might not want to post in the chat. You're welcome to do that if you choose. You can also email greenline@calgary.ca with a request to have a contact. And we'll keep an eye out for that tomorrow and in the days coming up. So please email greenline@calgary.ca if you are looking for a contact and haven't received that letter yet, or that information. We've got a few more minutes left here for questions. Jess, why don't I give it to you for maybe one more go around?
Okay. So the next question I have up is, why are we still doing rail? Are there more cost-effective options with emerging technology?
And I think Dave was going to speak to that. Here he comes.
Yeah, I can take that one. And so I think Graham touched on this a bit in his presentation. When you look at the volume of customers that are already on the buses, the reason that the conversion to rail is still important is just to deal with the sheer volume. So right now, going over the Center Street Bridge, there's over 60 buses an hour. There's other portions of the corridor where there's over 70 buses an hour. And so that's really what it is. It's about progressing that along. And if you look at the growth of the population further north, that's really what's driving it. And so I think when you talk about some of the other technologies, there's obviously a lot of different ways things can be done. But when you are dealing with the significant volumes that already exist and will continue to grow in the Center Street corridor, you really need the mass transit solution to be able to move that number of people.
Okay, thanks, Dave. The next question is a Center Street question. So the question is downtown to 16th Avenue North, as there is no park and ride plan for the 16th Ave station. Using the station going southbound would mainly be confined to those few communities close by. In the Q&A yesterday, one of the speakers said that the ridership would be huge going northbound to the 16th Avenue station based on people's studies. Please elaborate why people from the south would need to stop at 16th Avenue and Center Street on a daily basis. What facilities are there and what assumptions did you base on the estimate that supports your ridership?
Dave, is that you there?
You want me to take this one, Graham?
Yeah, please.
So, I think there's a couple of things there. Part of the importance of the 16th Avenue station is really also the transfers that can happen to the bus routes there. And so the Max Orange is one of those routes that is located along 16th Avenue. And that really gets folks out to the west towards the university, towards the hospitals. And so there's a number of different things that can happen there. So it's not purely about residents in the area, although there's a significant residential population in the vicinity of the station, but it's also really about those other connections that exist. So it may be folks in the morning coming from the south and actually going north to that point to be able to get onto the Max Orange line. So it's not just purely about the folks in that area being able to get into downtown.
Okay, so the next question I'll ask is about the bridge. The question is, why do you not just come down the east side of the Center Street Bridge, cross the Bow River and tie into 4th Street and eliminate the need for a tunnel or anything on the west of the Center Street Bridge?
I'm looking at Josh or Dave. Is that one for you?
I won't be able to speak to this one, but Dave or Graham, I'll put it to you.
Sure. Jess, sorry, could you repeat it one more time?
Yeah, for sure. The question is, why do you not just come down the east side of the Center Street Bridge, cross the Bow River and tie into 4th Street and eliminate the need for a tunnel or anything west of the Center Street Bridge?
Sure. So I'm assuming that is referring to a tie-in location at 4th Street Southeast, and so I'll answer with that assumption. And I think it's important to emphasize that we're building a transit program to serve the greatest number of Calgarians. And so our objective is to get more into as close into the heart of downtown as possible with our alignment. So that way transit service is within a 5 to 10 minute walk of a workplace, or a residential place, or a main attraction area for the city. And so if we had used Center Street Bridge and moved to 4th Street Southeast, we would have skirted around the downtown where we have a significant projection of riders that would be accessing the station in the 2th Street area. And so we wouldn't be getting the best return on investment from a ridership perspective because we wouldn't be attracting as many Calgarians to use the system. Thanks, Jess.
Okay. So the next.
Before you ask your next question, we're at 9:04, so we're going to take 2 more questions. We're just going to try to end it tonight. It's a little bit after 9, but we're going to take 2 more because we've had lots coming in, and then I'll give a couple closing remarks and we'll wrap it up for tonight. I really want to thank everybody for sticking through tonight.
Okay, thanks, Dylan. So the next question is a general one, and it is based on some of the questions and comments in this chat. Most people are not fully informed of the Green Line alignment. Coupled with the quarantine interruption, how has the city ensured accurate or adequate public consultation, and these concerns will be fully considered by the committee and city council? Online forums are great, but that precludes those that don't have access to these platforms.
So I can maybe start that response, and I might tap on folks from our Engage team to fill in any missing spaces. So we've been having conversations with Calgarians broadly since the end of January on the alignment changes. And we've been focusing, the first phase of engagement was sharing the alignment changes themselves. And then in early March, was our objective to meet with Calgarians at different pop-up events and open houses to share some of the details that I shared today. And then we've made sure that we've been updating information on our website since that time. And so we're making our best efforts in times of COVID to do engagement in forums like this, to have opportunities to have the dialogue that I normally would have one-on-one with you at our public engagement sessions, and to bring it into a forum like this. When it comes to the timelines for the project, City Council has asked us to come back in June. They did extend the time period, for us to come back in June as opposed to earlier, in this spring, to allow for opportunities like this to have some more dialogue.
Yeah, Graham, this is Dylan. I think you answered that well. One thing I would just add in terms of the difficulty for maybe those without internet access to reach this is, truthfully, this is a challenge of not being able to do public in-person engagement right now. Typically, and we did this before, just back in January and February, we would not only have events where you could come to, but we did pop-ups so we could reach maybe people who wouldn't typically be able to come to an event. We'd reach them at a grocery store or at a train station. And that's something we always try to do because we really do strive to be inclusive in our engagement. Right now, we are challenged by the restrictions due to COVID. What Calgarians can do, they can also phone 311, and we've tried to share this as well. And via 311, they can be helped through the online web, the information online, and they can also have the information translated live through live interpretation to any language. And so even through language barrier, folks can call 311 and have the web page relayed to them in the language that's most comfortable for them. I'm going to turn it over to you, Jess, for the last question.
Okay, thanks, Dylan. So that question is, I'm worried about an increase in crime once the station is built. Can you speak to this?
Yeah, that was actually a question that came up during our engagement in the community of Crescent Heights back in March. And there's a perception out there, we understand, that incidents of crime increase following the introduction of a new LRT station. And so we've been looking into that concern and that question, and trying to look at the research to confirm if there's research to support or refute this perception. And to date, we've not been able to find any direct evidence either direction. What we do know is a number of factors influence crime rates, so it's difficult to attribute it to one factor. The state of the economy, community demographics, even down to what measures you might use to protect your home with lighting or security, all factor in. So what I can talk about is what we ourselves at the city will look after, and that's, you know, for us, public safety and security is important, and it's important around our LRT stations. So through the design of this project, we'll be applying crime prevention through environmental design, or CEPTED is an acronym you might have heard. We'll be applying those kinds of principles to guide the design of the LRT stations. And so that means, you know, think about the sight lines to make sure that there's good visibility at all these stations so you can feel comfortable when catching a train, to make sure that we have good lighting and good consistent lighting levels at our train platforms. But that's where we're also extending that along Centre Street. And so when we're talking about providing pedestrian-oriented street lighting, one of the objectives is to improve that sense of comfort and the illumination levels across all of Centre Street, so that way the consistent light levels really reduces, you know, potential dark or hiding spots for people. And at the platforms as well, we'll be providing CCTV cameras and call boxes. So those are the measures that we'll be putting in place around our station areas to make sure that they're safe as we bring them into the community spaces. That's all, Jess.
Okay, thank you, Graham, and thank you, Jess, and thank you to all the subject matter experts who answered questions tonight. And most of all, thanks to everyone who was here tonight asking questions. Working in engagement on this project for as long as I have, I really want to acknowledge that, yeah, you know, this is a big project to people, and for different reasons for each person, and everyone's opinion is valid on this. Of the 5,000 comments we received just this year so far, those have been read, those have been shared with the project team, and we really appreciate you taking the time to share that. So the project team and the decision makers have a good, wholesome understanding of how Calgarians are feeling about the Green Line and about the recommended changes for the Green Line as well. We're going to close off tonight. I just shared in the Q&A a link to our survey. Really appreciate if folks can share that. This is a new style of engagement or public event for us, and we need your help to get better, and we do appreciate the feedback. I did see a comment where someone requested that we extend the character limit in the text boxes. I don't know if we can do that with the survey already live, but my pal Rebecca will have a look at that and we will see if it can be done. And if not, we could certainly do that next time around. A couple things just to share before we wrap up. This presentation and the one from yesterday will be shared online in the coming days. So those will be posted to engage.calgary.ca/greenline. Also posted to that website will be a What We Heard report summarizing all of the comments and feedback we received over the past few months. Not only will you see the general themes that we got, and that council will also see these themes, by the way, as the report is shared with them on June 1st and June 15th, but you'll also see every individual comment we received. And like I said, that's about 5,000 comments. Those will all be included in the What We Heard report, which will be posted shortly. If you're not, you should be familiar with the webpage engage.calgary.ca/greenline. But if not, I'm just going to give you a quick show right now. This is your best resource for all information Greenline at this point. On the webpage, you will be able to see basic information about how to attend events like this, as well as how to participate in the Greenline committee meeting on June 1st. All of that detail is posted here, and this is where you'll find recordings of tonight's presentation, as well as the What We Heard report from the recent engagement. In here, if you haven't been already, you can also dive through Greenline Segment 1 information, updated information for Greenline Segment 2, as well as some other general information about Greenline Stage 1. So a really great resource. And on here, we've also got a number of frequently asked questions, both for the general line as well as for specific segments of the line as well. With that, I think we're going to wrap it up for tonight. Oh, my screen's freezing out. There we go. It looks pretty good now. Sincerely, thank you everyone for being here tonight, for spending your time all the way to 9:13 tonight. You are appreciated. And if you have any questions, you can email greenline@calgary.ca or always call 311. We thank you for being here and we wish you all the best. Until next time. Bye-bye.